So mechanical keyboards are a thing now. You can assemble them from scratch. You can just buy them as they are. And there are a lot of brands out there, and I want to talk about the differences between the Keychron Q1, which is one of my favorite keyboards thus far, and the NuPhy Air75 V2. So the similarities are quite obvious. They both work on Windows and Mac. You just have to switch this toggle right here. On the NuPhy keyboard, it's right here, and they are both mechanical. So they have this thunk sound. When it comes to the switches, the sound might differ, and that's basically it. When it comes to the differences, where there are quite some differences between the two. The first one is that this keyboard has a chassis made out of metal. It's entirely metal, and it's quite heavy, I should say. When it comes to the thickness, this keyboard is quite thick. So if you don't have a wrist rest, or whatever you call this, you might have some hard times, or your wrist might get tired after time. So think about that. If you want to buy a non-low profile keyboard, which is this one's not low profile, you might need a wrist rest as well. Whereas the NuPhy keyboard is quite light. This thing is made out of plastic, at least the back. The front is made out of metal, and it's low profile. It's way thinner than this Keychron keyboard. When it comes to its connectivity, the NuPhy keyboard kind of wins from the Keychron because you can connect this one wired and wireless. And the battery lifetime of this keyboard is quite impressive. I've been working on it all day, and I guess you can just go on and on for a couple of weeks even, and it will not ask you to charge it. Whereas the Keychron, you will need to connect it to your machine with a USB-C cable. And if you don't have a USB-C cable, which by the way will come in the box within the keyboard, you can't just use it. So it needs to be connected all the time to your machine, which is kind of a good thing because that way you will never run out of battery. But at the same time, you'll not have that clean desk look if you want to have that minimalistic look that you are looking for. So if you are someone who is looking for a minimalistic setup, then definitely go for this NuPhy keyboard. Other than that, you'll get a clean, nice looking braided USB-C cable that allows you to connect your keyboard to your machine, and that doesn't look bad as well. And now the biggest question, both have some cool RGB lighting. I don't feel much for that RGB lighting effect, but if you are someone who likes that, yeah, absolutely go for it. So the last difference between the two is the fact that this one has a clean back, so there's nothing else besides these dots right here. And the NuPhy keyboard does have this thing to adjust the angle of your keyboard, and it has some mirror effect that you will not look to whatsoever. So this is a thing that looks cool, but your eyes on it because your keyboard will most likely be laid down on its back all the time. So let's go ahead and do some sound testing. Okay, so that's how the NuPhy keyboard sounds like. This is how the Keychron sounds like. So if you would ask me, I find that the NuPhy keyboard has more of that thucky sound, whereas the sound of the Keychron is more hollow. Obviously, that goes with the switches that are inside this Keychron. To be honest with you, I don't know what switches are inside this keyboard, but I guess if you would be able to switch those switches, you will have more of that thucky sound to your keyboard. And that goes as well for when you put the keyboard flat on its back. the sounds gets more thucky, and yeah, it's more clickable. And I find that the NuPhy keyboard, because of its low profile shape, I find this NuPhy keyboard slightly better. Even though this one has a great build quality to it, I think the NuPhy keyboard is the better one in this case. Also because it's cheaper than this one. This one, I bought this one like almost 2 years ago, and it was at that time for 180 euros, or actually $180. As of now, I found this keyboard for about $180 still. So maybe that's because of the quality of this keyboard, even though there's a second version that came out with a knob on the right side of the keyboard. So that says something about the brand. They bring out keyboards on the market that hold their value, so that's something I would consider as well. So yeah, that was a comparison between the NuPhy Air75 V2 and the Keychron Key1. I hope you liked it. As always, if you have any questions about both of these keyboards, just leave them in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to answer them. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.